Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are doing an indie book, or not indie, but like not a mainstream book. It's an image book called Black Science.
It's not one I had ever heard of.
Yeah, I never really read this or saw it on the stands when it was coming out, but once it's finished, I see all these like hardcover collections that are of it, and the art looks super cool. So I was like, "What is that?" I don't remember that was when that was coming out, but that was probably when I wasn't really buying comics as much because, money and stuff.
Comics expensive?
Yeah, they're expensive, and so yeah, I was just kind of like, I guess. This is like something that was under my radar. It's an image book. It's by Rick Remender, who I like his stuff. He did things like Fear Agent, and he's written Fantastic Four and whatnot. I think X-Men too. And then the art is by a dude named Matteo Scalera, who's like, I don't know. To me, and we were kind of talking about what does his art look like? It looks kind of like Venture Brothers.
Yeah.
Looks kind of like Don Bluth animation. I don't know, just like a really interesting, really eye-catching style.
For a comic book especially, like this definitely looks more of an animation style to me.
Yes.
In the comic form. So it was cool. That's when you told me about it and I went to look it up before we started to read it, I was like, that's what drew me to it right away, just like you said when you saw the hardcovers.
Yeah.
Wow, this art is really cool looking.
You can't help but it just catches your eye and you're like, what the hell is this? So, I mean, to me, that was really a drawing factor of it. And then also, I got to say, and we don't normally say the colorist, but Dean White did an amazing coloring job on this. Like, it looks so cool. I just wanted to say that because, like, his colors on Matteo Scalera's art is fucking beautiful. So, this was like the first 6 issues of a run. I don't remember how. I think maybe it's 36 issue run, something like that. And it was from 2014, so that's pretty much why I missed it, because it was like when I was not reading at the time. So, but if you were going to describe this kind of series, what would you compare it to? Movies or TV or?
So it's a sci-fi kind of alternate dimension-y, Rick and Morty-esque a little with a...
okay, yeah, it's got a Rick and Morty flair because they're going to different worlds and dimensions.
Not necessarily funny, because like there wasn't too much comedy to this. It was like little
really.
quips maybe. This was definitely much more serious, dramatic, very stylized. It was really cool. I liked it.
Yeah. I would call this, I guess, just going back a little bit further in the 90s. It's if y'all remember Quantum Leap or
Sliders. Okay.
All right, that's what it was like to me. I was like, this is Sliders.
See, now I felt like that was going to be too old of a reference. That's why, because I thought Sliders too.
Oh wow, you're calling me old?
No, I just
you son of a bitch. He's 1 year younger than me, folks, and he's going to call me old.
I just didn't think people were like, what's Sliders?
I can't believe you.
If you
don't know Sliders,
if you don't know what Sliders is,
go watch Sliders. It's pretty fun. All right. Maybe not all the seasons, but at least the first 2 are pretty fun.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's about people who travel through dimensions. And this is basically that. Like, the setup is, and then we'll kind of jump around a little bit just to get the setup in there and like fully flesh that out. But basically, you have a team of, what are they called?
Oh,
Dimensionauts?
Dimensionauts, yeah. And then the guy who funds it's like, we're not calling y'all that.
Yeah. And they're like, no, we're Dimensionauts. So they're Dimensionauts, so they're astronauts, in quotation marks, who go to other dimensions. And they're like the first team of people that have done this. So, and they have this machine called the Pillar, and that is the Stargate. What have you?
Yeah.
Hey, also, Stargate is also a dimensional portal, show that you could compare this to as well. This is a thing. This was a thing, and it definitely felt in that vein. I could tell what was going to happen just based on me having watched a lot of those shows.
Oh, yeah. We were kind of talking about this before, too. Like, the comic was really fun.
Yes.
But it was definitely predictable. Like, you could kind of see where it was going. Although, I have to say, in this arc that we read, I kind of do wish there was, like, one or two more issues because I
Yeah.
feel like there was a tiny bit that they could have wrapped up that I would have been okay to keep reading.
Well, this is being the first trade. They just want to leave you hanging so hard that you want to find out what happens next and continue reading. So, it didn't feel necessarily like it was written for trade, though. Like a lot of series nowadays feel like that. I mean, it definitely left you on the biggest cliffhanger at issue 6, and I think it knew that when it did it. But like each issue definitely had a cliffhanger, and it definitely had like a different feel and everything.
That's true.
As they go through the different dimensions, you get like completely different environments and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
That's true. That was cool. Now that you mentioned it, every issue ended on like a little like, what?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of cool. That's true.
Which is nice because that's how it's supposed to be in comics, I would think.
And we don't always get that, especially for the ones that are written, like you said, for trade.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they end on like a mediocre, like, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
No, and
you're
it's
like,
okay.
what the fuck?
Like that was very anticlimactic.
Yeah, so I appreciate that Rick Remender knows how to write for comic books monthly, and then those also you have a bigger reveal or a bigger cliffhanger on the 6-issue mark, So it's kind of both for trade and for monthly issues. So first things first, like right away, this drops you into the middle of the action. Issue 1, page 1, is the main scientist's name is Grant, and he is running with another scientist named Jen, and they're running from some frog monsters that are riding eels. And it's like, what the fuck's going on? And we don't know. And are they like Indiana Jones or something? Or like, why are they being chased? And we don't know. And I loved this world. I don't know, like the environments of it. It was very like, I thought like jungle type, but then when they showed the world, it's like there's a bunch of like Aztec temples on top of turtlebacks, like gigantic turtlebacks, and the world is like filled with water. So it's like the only land is the turtlebacks kind of thing. So that's why the temples are built on top of them, and then the inhabitants are all frog people, and
frog and fish people.
Yes,
because some of the people kind of look like angler fishes.
Yeah, I thought they were just both all frogs, and then or like frog-ish, more amphibian than
maybe
fish,
different types.
Yeah. So I just figured the reason I thought this is because, so in the when he's being chased originally, him and the scientist named Jen, who's his teammate, are running from them, and they're like throwing rocks at them, like slings, like old school weapons. They don't have the high tech weapons, and then they get to a cliff, and all of a sudden Jen's like, I think we should, and then like a rock goes through her helmet, and he's like, and her brain's like, or her face just turns to like a red mist, and she's gone. So like he's like, fuck, like she's dead. Don't have time to think about that. I gotta run. And the one thing I liked about this, it's like a kind of a cheat way that comics do this sometimes, but it's how to get a lot of information and backstory without having to show it on the page. So he has a lot of inner dialogue, and the inner dialogue you get, especially in this first issue, you find out, he's got kids. Him and his wife have issues. He loves his kids, but there's always a struggle between his kids and his family and science time. And so, like, he's kind of a bad dad because of that. And all he wants to do is rescue his kids and get back to, Earth Prime or wherever they're from, their home, because the mom isn't with them on this trip, and we don't really know why at first. But yeah, this team's just trying to get back home, and they can't for some reason. And we also find out they have a ship, and it's called the Pillar, or not a ship, but like a machine that's called the Pillar, and it's what takes them through dimensions, and it is low on coolant, and it's going to explode if they don't get it. So that's what they were looking for when they got it. Wasn't like gold or treasure or anything. It was like, we're just looking for water, basically like fresh water to pour into this thing so it doesn't explode when it takes off. And we find out it basically every time it lands in a new dimension, it has a random time set. So like in this one, they had an hour to find some water for it. In the next one, they might have 10 hours, or they don't know.
In one, they might have 5 minutes. Like it was jumping all over the place.
You never know, and so that adds like a level of anxiety to the whole comic or whatever. And so we find out that like he's running, and Jen gets her like head blown up or whatever, and then he is able to escape. he like jumps off of a cliff or something, jumps in some water and swims. I guess he finds like an underwater cavern and he swims into that, and then he like appears now he's inside of one of the temples that looks like an Aztec pyramid and or a Mayan pyramid, and there's blue frogs. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, blue frogs.
All these frog people.
And then the blue frogs, he like kind of goes up to them like, hey. And then they like start trying to like electrocute him with, they have electric powers.
They were cool, yeah. Like it looked like when a tongue would go to flick out his tongue to catch something, they looked like they were shooting like lightning tongues out.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah. And I want to know, I kind of wish I knew how much input Rick Remender had into the creation of what the world and animals look like and stuff, or the inhabitants. Because if Matteo Scalera made all this up, he's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Every world is really interesting and cool. I'm sure some of it was just them, talking about it, because obviously some of it was part of the script. So you'd have to say there's definitely frog people, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if he was like frog people like this, and look like this, and their powers are X or whatever. So these blue frog people, they have electric powers, and we find out that they're kind of like the upper class frog people, and the yellow ones on the outside of the pyramids or the temples are like the slave people of these blue frogs. So they have like a stripper on their table, and she's naked and stuff. Yeah. Also, this is a mature rated comic. There is some frog.
She had pasties on, but it was definitely like.
Did she?
Yeah. I think so.
I don't think she did. But
no? Okay, well, I mean, it's a frog body. I don't want to judge. I can't tell.
It is a frog body. I'm not 100%.
But they had a frog body that had accentuated or
had mammalian features.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like, that's weird, but you could get what the point they were going for there.
Yeah, basically, she's
dancing
frog,
for these other frogs.
Yeah, and they're being really rude to her. Like, you could just tell by their mannerisms, like they're treating her like shit, and she doesn't want to be there. But they're making her kind of dance for them. And so he sees this after he kind of like beats up some of the blue frogs. This is actually pretty cool. He like hits one, rips its head off, and then it still has the electric power. So then he's like wielding that against them. He's like, all fear before me or whatever. And then like, so he sees this like stripper dancing going on, and he's like, okay, she looks like she's having a bad time. I'm going to save her and then peace out. So he does that. He gets a hold of her and like jumps out of a window, and then they jump. This is luck, pure luck. They jump into a freshwater pond or something, and he's able to fill up a jug of fresh water. So now he's like, okay, I got the coolant. And then as he's getting out of this river or this like freshwater area, the yellow frogs are like, "Arr!" And he's like, no, I got one of your
people.
Girls. Yeah. And then it turns out that it's like the King Yellow Frog's wife or something.
Yeah, he's like, because they like embrace, and he's like, obviously they had a relationship, and they must be.
Yeah, we don't 100% know, but that's what it made it look like. Like, basically, the blue frogs, who are like the upper society frogs, are like had stolen the queen or something of this yellow frog society, and now he brought them back. They're like, cool, and then the blue frogs start attacking, and so the yellow frogs and the blue frogs go at it, which gives him an escape, and so he is able to escape. He runs back to his team. He's got his. We meet his team. The team is made up of a woman named Rebecca, who's like another scientist. A dude named Kadir, who's like the financier or like the money behind the project.
He's the only one also not in like a space kind of suit. He's just like in a like business kind of suit without a tie.
Also, I loved the spacesuits. Like, I thought they were really cool.
They were cool looking.
I don't know. This is the design of all the tech and everything, and this was really good too. There's a dude named Ward who's like their security. There's Grant's kids are here. Their names are Pia and Nate. There's another scientist named Sean, and then there is another woman named Chandra, who I don't think she's a scientist. I think she's like Kadir's right hand, like secretary or woman that like
she's got a suit, but she's definitely like working with Kadir.
Yeah,
Kadir, pardon me.
Kadir, and so then like that's where you find out like, okay. They're kind of arguing and they're like, where's Jen? And he's like, Jen's gone. Like, she's dead or whatever. And he's filling up the coolant. And then it's like 3, 2, 1. And then they do their first teleport, which I thought was pretty cool. They get like basically every issue almost ends with a teleport. There was a couple where it overspanned 2 issues. But for the most part, every kind of, I think they visited about 4 different places in 6 issues. So it's kind of cool to see different environments every time and different, creatures.
Just completely different worlds. It was very imaginative every new place that they went. And it's like they ended this one and it's like they came from this like kind of marshy Aztec alien fish frog creature world, and they appear in this like middle of a war zone,
like World War, like they appear, and this is like the beginning or the end of issue 1, beginning of issue 2. We find out there's like these German guys who are dressed in like World War I armor, or not armor, but like the
helmets that they have like the brim on them.
Yeah, like the flatter helmets that the World War I soldiers had. And then they're fighting some like super high tech tribal, like
kind
I think Native Americans,
American-esque, like definitely native to the planet or whatever.
Right, but they definitely had like it was like if you took all like the totems and like thunder birds and stuff, all of those imagery, and then made them like mech suits, and stuff. So like all of their fighting stuff was all mech suits and
/ mystical a bit.
Yeah, and they all had
really
like
cool.
They all still rode like horses, and they had like axes and stuff or hatchets, but they were like laser hatchets, or like the horses had were like mechanical, and they could like hover over the ground and shit. It was very, very cool.
These are my favorite people, I think, of all of the creatures.
It was pretty awesome. And they're fighting like the super advanced. It's kind of like the reverse of what happened in, I guess, our history, which is you have the out-teched natives versus the super high-tech white guys that come from Europe. Is the reverse of that. Now it's the super high-tech natives versus the very basic World War I, grunt or whatever. And so, and they're German speaking. So, one guy like sees them and he's like, saboteurs or whatever. Like he thinks they're spies. And, he stabs Grant as they're like arguing about stuff. Cause they see also the board has been smashed on the pillar, and they're like, someone sabotaged this thing. And, so Grant gets stabbed by this, World War I German dude, and they're like, what the fuck? And they beat him up, and they're like, we find out Kadir speaks German, or somewhat at least. So he's like questioning him, and Kadir's like, do you have medicine? Is there a way to heal him? And they're like, the German's like, well, only the natives have medicine like that. Like basically they have shamans that can like heal anything. And so they're like, well, we got to get one of those. So because Kadir speaks German, he's like basically self-volunteered, or he's told he has to go, because he's like we find out Kadir's kind of like, obviously because he's like the money man, he doesn't want to be on an adventure, he doesn't like being in deadly circumstances. So you have him, and then you have Ward, the security guy, and then the African-American scientist named Sean, who goes with them, and they're all just trying to like, all 3 of them leave the trench that they're in with the team, and they're like, okay, I guess we got to find a shaman, and they're like run into the battlefield, and they're having to go through like barbed wire with like bodies all like fucked up in it.
Don't look at the bodies, just crawl over them.
It's super fucked
crazy.
Up. And this one was like I liked the character Ward a lot. I was kind of sad at the end of issue 3, but I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, he passes. But he was basically the whole time he's kind of like, my dad's dad died in WW2, and my dad died in Vietnam, and now I will not die in the mud or whatever, like in the battlefield.
He's going through. He's like, all of their stories have like led me to understand of like how to handle these kind of situations.
Yeah. So even though he's just like security for scientists, somehow he's able to like get through all this battlefield, and then like issue 3, that's kind of like the end of issue 2 ends with like Grant seemingly like he's gonna die. He kind of passes out, and it leaves it hanging like Grant, and then just leaves him hanging. So issue 3 starts, and we find out that like back before all this happened, we have a couple things going on. This was like before they did their first dimensional teleportation. We find out Kadir was like a son of a bitch. Like he was basically planning on using or like taking all the credit for this discovery of like transdimensional travel, and he was going to make sure that Grant wasn't going to get any credit and he wasn't going to cause any trouble for it, because he had dirt on Grant, and that dirt was Rebecca, one of the team members, was sleeping with Grant, and he had video footage and all this shit. So
and they have been for years.
Yeah, for years. So while Grant seems, he seems very repenting, and he's like, my wife and my kids, and in his head he seems a little bit more like heroic, I guess, because it's his head, right? So he seems like he's sorry to us, the reader, because we're reading his inner thoughts. But what actually is going on is he's fucking this other scientist for years, and Kadir's like hates him, and so there's all this inner tension in the group kind of thing. And then we cut back to the battlefield, and Kadir and Sean have found a shaman with Ward, and they see the powers of the shaman. Like,
yeah, it was cool. Like, so like they like come on a camp of them, and like the shaman is like has like this staff, and he like shoots this beam out of it that it looks like there's kind of like animals in it too, like look like birds or something.
Like, I don't know, spirit animals.
Something. Yeah, some kind of.
I don't want to be.
No, it's just that's what the art looked like.
Yeah.
But it was also like a mechanical staff. Like it looked like.
Yes, it looked like it was a mix of science and whatever their
some
spiritual
kind of,
beliefs
spiritual.
are. Yeah,
but it was cool, and like there was a hole in the chest of this soldier, and it just like closed up and then looked good as new after he got blasted with it.
So they're like,
that's the
it.
guy.
That's what we need. So they like basically just kind of rush in real quick, knock him on the head, bonk. And then like they try to run away, and of course they get seen with him. So that now they're on the run back to the ship. And I think it only had like 4 hours. Yeah. Like when they first got on this new area, they had like 4 hours to get back to the ship. So
the pillar.
The pillar. And so I'm gonna call it the ship a couple times because in my head it's just a ship. But yeah. So they're like on the run, and this is where you get to see like the full like what the native tech people have, like the warriors. They have like these crazy mech suits, like just like like I don't know, Voltron style, where they can like command these things, and they're like trying to get them and chase them down.
They have guys in like these flying suits. They look like basically mechanical wings.
Thunderbirds. They're like like mechanical Thunderbirds, and they even have like the outlines. I don't know. It looked exactly like Native American cave art, but in a mechanical. If you took that and then someone designed a spaceship or wings or whatever based on that, so it's very, very cool like design on it. And then they also have like horses that are like mechanical horses and stuff, and so they're being chased down by all these people, and they're like I said, they have like laser axes and like kind of native looking weapons that are now super high tech or whatever. And then like we cut back to this like super like the team. It's the team, and this is like a super fucked up moment. Like Rebecca, who is the other scientist lady and also Grant's lover, she is trying to like calm everybody down, and then like the German who they have as prisoner now is like you can tell he's like trying to like weasel a way out or like figure out how to get out away from these people. And then like we see a German patrol coming, and they're walking, and they're like wunderbar, like hello, like whatever they say, I don't know. And then wow. and then so they're like trying to figure out what's going on in this like pit area, and it's interesting because like you think they're gonna get discovered because all they have to do is like look down, and then the German prisoner hears them, and he's like, we're here, I'm here, I'm a prisoner. And like Rebecca has to like hold his head down in some mud.
In the mud, yeah.
And just keeps holding it down in the mud until basically he dies. So like she has to murder this German soldier to keep him from like alerting his buddies who are going to assume that they're spies or whatever and capture them. And so that was like super fucked up. And then another fucked up thing happens, which is we find out not only is Kadir a son of a bitch for trying to take credit for like all of Grant's discoveries and stuff as far as interdimensional travel. But we find out that Kadir basically set up Grant and his team, I guess, to like for the machine to go off on accident in quotation marks and send his team and Grant off into some dimension to be lost forever. So like he basically sabotaged the machine and sent them off to die, so then he wouldn't have to deal with, you know, them calling him out and like for him stealing the credit. So he's super fucked up. And we find out that basically he's like when that happened, he's like, what, you have kids? And like, so they were kind of in the room as well, which is why they got sucked in. So like Grant took his kids to work day or some shit on that day, because he's like, kids, we're going into the, you know, the dimensions, you know, and it's the first step towards dimensional travel and finding like infinite medicines for all these problems and everything. He thinks it's going to save the world.
Yeah, basically infinite dimensions, so infinite things they can get. And I think that was part of it too, is because they, when he has the kids there and Kadir comes in that then too, is like, wait a minute, why you guys are going to test this today? I thought you guys were going to wait. And it's because he already sabotaged it. And
yeah.
So now there's extra people here, and he wasn't expecting that. And
oh, okay. So I was like, oh man, he was going to kill the whole team too. But I guess he just thought it was going to be Grant and maybe Rebecca or something.
Maybe, or yeah, either just the two of them, or he had it ready to go for like when they were going to test it on this specific day.
Yeah.
But then they were like, oh no, we're going to test it early, because he was like, Grant, you son of a bitch, you weren't going to like, you know, I would invite me to see it.
Yeah.
Because he was like, he sabotaged the race. He wanted to be there to see them disappear.
So that he got sucked into with his secretary or right-hand woman, Chandra. And then also Grant's kids got sucked in too. So it was like a big fuck up. So that's kind of like where issue 3 like leaves hanging, like, holy shit, we know Kadir's the son of a bitch, right? And then and this leads right into issue 4, because we find out that so like Ward, Kadir, and Sean are now running back. They're trying to make it back within like the time limit. And like we already saw, the team is trying to like not be discovered by the Germans, and it's all tense and everything. And they keep like fighting, like all these warriors keep popping up trying to kill Ward and Kadir and Sean. And so finally, like we get to a point where like Ward is like, you just, you know, basically we got to like fight these guys, and once we kill them, then we can like keep moving. And so he turns around and he's fighting them, and Kadir's got this laser axe, and Ward's like help me out, man, throw me the axe or whatever. And Kadir's just like, peace out. And
he
Kadir
just runs,
leaves him hanging. And Ward's like, what the fuck? And he's like, I guess this is how it ends. Just like I didn't want it, like in the mud with warriors. And they like, the other fucked up thing was like the warriors, like this is why it's like obviously like Native American, is because they scalp the people. So like they take their laser axe or whatever and they like scalp Ward, and like super fucked up. So like now it's just Kadir and Sean, and they're running, and they finally make it back, and they're like with the shaman. They have the shaman still. They're like, okay, thank God. And they make it back just in time as like it's like 3, 2, 1, and then they jump. And so then they jump into a new world, and the new world is much calmer. And I thought this world, I don't know what you thought, John, but this was a Star Wars world if I ever saw one.
Yeah,
it was very like, this is where the Jawas hang out and sell fucking parts and shit.
Yep.
It was like,
yeah, very much. They were like, it's calm. It was just like an area of peace and trade, and there were a lot of weird creatures, but obviously creatures that were like just living their normal lives.
Yeah,
and,
I was waiting for Sebulba to show up, like with his pod racer and all that stuff. So you know,
I love that you like go to episode 1 Star Wars.
Well, no, because that's what it reminded me of. Because like, I don't remember what's the guy's name, the flying blue dude, Watto. Yeah. But it's like he's like, hey, I'm a pod dealer. Like, you know, that's what I was waiting for, one of those guys to show up, because that's kind of the atmosphere.
That's true, and they're looking for, like, they obviously have to. They realize it's been sabotaged, so they're looking for parts too. So that would have been a moment for that kind of a thing. Like, I got the parts for your machine. Yeah, and so now they're on this peaceful world, and we find out Grant wakes up, and it's all, he's like, oh shit, where are we at now? And he's like in a bed, and they're like, oh, like basically the shaman worked out like
and this was like they just kind of explained it away like shaman worked.
Yeah,
you know?
well, but they did it in a cool way because they were saying how are they going to get him to do it, and the financier was like, we'll just pull the gun to his head and he'll do it, right? And he'll figure it out eventually. But then they said it was because the kids were crying over the body of their dad, and they were like, Sean was like, "Oh, it's a family thing. I'll heal him." Basically,
yeah. So that was nice. But then, then like Chandra and Kadir, like Kadir's like, "Man, this has been a really crazy time," and he's off on his own with Chandra, and Chandra basically is like, well, and she like puts his hand like in between his legs and is like, just so you know, I'm like 100% with you.
I am all in.
Yeah, and she's like basically, with Ward and Jen gone, there's not like we're weeding out all the people that would stand between you becoming leader of this group and being able to make the decisions.
It was pretty good because she was like, I know what you did. I know what happened to Ward, and it's okay. Self-preservation. I understand.
Yeah.
It was creepy.
Yeah, it was really creepy. So, yeah, something's weird with her. Like, I don't know, she's just too into Kadir or something. And then, like, we see, like, at the very end of this issue, because not too much else happens in this issue, they kind of do, like, some back and forth, like, basically, like, Rebecca's relationship with Grant in the prior, in their main world and all this stuff.
She's definitely at odds with her dad. She says her dad is, or I'm sorry, you said...
I said Rebecca, but you're talking about Pia, his daughter.
Pia, yeah. They shows a little bit of Pia's relationship too, where she's like talking to her brother's like not feeling great, and she's talking to Sean, and she's like, "Oh,
Oh yeah, I liked this. Yeah, we're like Sean. Sean is the African American, and he's just like on Team Grant.
Yeah,
he's like, you know what?
Your dad's gonna do this. He's fine.
He's fine. He's perfect. And they're like, I don't know if you know my dad that well, Sean, because. Like he likes science a lot more than he likes us, basically.
Yeah, he's never been a good father. He's a son of a bitch, and like I don't know if we're ever gonna see mom again. That's the one thing is that they point like we miss mom. Yeah. Why did this have to happen?
That's all we want to do is get home to see mom, basically, because dad's kind of a dick. He doesn't really care that much. So, they think he doesn't. I mean, in his head he does, and he knows he's like spent too much time on science. But at the same time, he like, and this was funny, like in some of the flashbacks they show, like he's part of, this was like kind of like a funny, like this has to be like a Rick Remender, like thing or something. But he's like, basically Grant was a punk, like a nerd punk in college. And like, that's why Kadir doesn't like him because he was too cool for school or whatever. And it shows, Grant, and he's got like a mohawk. He's got like an anarchy sign on his like tattooed on his neck, and he's like part of the League of Anarchist Scientists and stuff. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? So I kind of want to see later on. I kind of, I hope later on if we keep reading this or whatever, if I keep reading this, like they explain some more of that stuff. Like, what is the League of Anarchist Scientists, and like, why would you have a bunch of punk scientists and all that kind of stuff? It's weird. It's like kind of an interesting but weird concept that seems a little cheesy but also is like a fun idea. So I wanted to explore that more. We didn't get that in this trade. But basically at the end of this issue we find some other person dimension teleports, and they have like this badass suit on.
Looks kind of like a bounty hunter style suit.
Yeah, basically it's Boba Fett. I mean, Boba Fett appears on Mos Eisley or whatever, and so yeah, we're like, oh, what's that? And then like the issue ends. So that's what I'm saying. Like that good cliffhangers for like every issue, and then issue 5 is like starts off right away with like Grant and Sean, and they're like lying to the kids, and they're like, don't worry, kids, like we'll be able to fix the pillar. Like that's why we're here on this perfect, like parts planet or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like right as they're kind of arguing and getting mad and whatnot about that, a hooded figure shows up and kidnaps Nate and Pia, the children, Grant's kids, and like runs off and beats the shit out of Grant and knocks Sean out or whatever. And so Grant's like, oh my God, someone kidnapped my kids. So he takes flight after them, takes pursuit. And they're like, they have this big epic chase scene. This whole issue is basically like a big epic chase between this person and Grant.
This bounty hunter character and Grant.
Yeah, and so they're chasing and back and forth, and the kids get into each different person's, grasp at certain times. And they're riding, what I would call pod racers and whatnot, against each other. And and then we find out that because like the mask gets pulled off.
Yeah, Grant gets the upper hand in a tussle and like basically knocks the helmet in pieces off of him.
Yeah, Boba Fett's helmet comes off, and we find out that it's like an old, scarred up version of Grant, like a grayer, more scarred version of Grant. And it's like, what the fuck? And then like that throws.
He's like, I'm just trying to save my kids.
Yeah, I'm just here for my kids. God damn it! And because obviously this is an older Grant, so he must know the future or something, right? Like he must understand something more than this younger Grant. So he gets the kids back, and he like takes them. He finally like loses young Grant. Yeah, old Grant gets the kids back from young Grant. He loses young Grant with the kids, and then he gets back to his tent, and then he's like, we're back, honey. I got him. And then we see their mom is like another kind of in a bounty hunter garb or whatever, and she's like, "Oh my god, my kids!" And like, so that's a big reveal.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool because that's who I thought maybe was going to be in the suit first. I was like, "Oh, it's going to be the mom."
Right.
So it was kind of, she was there obviously, ended up being there, but it was a cool reveal still. And then it was a fun because they were like, the kids right away were like, "Mom's here,"
Yeah.
And they had this like endearing moment, and then they're like, "Well, wait a minute.
Yeah, you're not mom.
You're not mom because this is some weird dad and you're with him."
Yeah.
He looks like dad, but he's not dad. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So then we find out that like basically, and also like Grant catches up and they're like telling him this all as well. And basically they're themselves in the future, and they've seen what happens to every other dimensional run of Grant and his kids. And every other time that like the kids are with Grant in this dimension hopping thing, the kids die. So this Grant and the old Grant and the old mom are like, okay, we have to save the kids in one of these times before like they die. So they get to this one, they're still alive. So he's like, okay, we can save them. So they're trying to save them, but young Grant's like, no, fuck you. Like, I'm taking them back. And then also they tell Grant, and this is kind of like the bigger thing, like, it doesn't matter, like, if you save them, like, here, right now, from us or whatever, like, it's going to happen. And also, the pillar is destroying, like, time and space. Like, it's, every time you're going to a dimension, you're not just going to a dimension. You're, like, cracking the fabric of each dimensional world or whatever. So, like, each timeline is getting fucked up and is going to spiral out of control and blow up or whatever.
And the only reason they know all this is because they're being, I guess, careful about it, and they're only going through like
the cracks
of time, whatever. Yeah.
So yeah, like basically we find out the pillar is like punching its way through each dimension, causing like really big problems. So it's gonna like destroy all of the universe or whatever dimensionally, the multiverse, I guess. And then they also tell Grant, and this is kind of the more important thing. They're like, and also, Kadir is the saboteur.
Every time.
Like
every dimension, every time.
Yeah, Kadir. every incarnation of you guys and the kids and everybody is Kadir fucks up. He sabotages on purpose, or something happens and he's the one that causes it or whatever. So now Grant is like, okay, I know. That's good to know. So then he's like, okay, I got to take my kids back because we got, we're about to jump back again. And so, and the machine still hasn't been fixed. It's still on the fritz. They weren't able to get all the parts.
It just keeps doing its little countdown.
Yeah. So they get back just in time, young Grant and the kids. And so they leave the old Grant and the mom. And then now they're on like some new,
it's kind of like icy.
It's like an ice world on the crust, but it seems like there's like monkeys or apes have like colonized these big like we'll call them mines or shafts that go down into the earth.
Yeah.
So like they're able to stay warm or whatever, but like the outside is all cold and snowy. And so right away Grant's like, Kadir, you son of a bitch, and like they start fighting, and then that's where like issue 5 ends and issue 6 begins. Same right there. Kadir and Grant fighting.
That was cool because it ends with like Grant jumping and punch, like they're punching, and then he pushes him off, jumps off a cliff with him.
Yeah, they're right next to the edge of one of these shafts that goes down into the earth.
Yeah.
So they jump like Grant doesn't give a fuck. He's just so mad that like this happened. He just pushes Kadir into the I guess shoves him into the pit, and also he goes in.
Yeah, because in the next one it shows them punching each other in
space, in flight or whatever, in the middle of falling down, and so they land in this water at the end at the bottom of the pit, which is lucky. There's a bunch of water, and then we find out that they're like, hey, this is the birth center for the monkeys. Like, holy shit, there's all these baby monkeys everywhere, and they're like, uh-oh, that's bad. Then we see there's a fungus around also, and they find out as they're still fighting, and basically Kadir has gotten he got pushed down by Grant and knocked out in the water. So Kadir possibly was drowning, and Grant's like, well, fuck that guy, and he heads out of the water, and in his way he kind of runs into some monkeys and stuff, and they're trying to attack him and whatnot. But basically we find out that the monkeys are just the host bodies of the fungus. So the inhabitants of this planet are just actually the fungus, and then the monkeys are just being born as hosts for them. So, and it's weird. They're kind of like spirit funguses, because when you destroy the fungus, its spirit comes out and then can possess any other living being, I guess. So,
but it looks like it's one fungus, one spirit per host.
Per orb or host. So Kadir comes up and he's like, oh shit, what the fuck's going on? And monkeys are kind of running down to get him, because as Grant ran past them, they're like, well, either follow Grant or stay where Kadir just popped up, and he's more of a threat because he's now in the birthing zone or whatever. And so they go after Kadir, and then we cut back up to the top, and Pia is all pissed off. And she's like, no, we got to go get my dad. He fell in the hole. And Rebecca's like, no, calm down. We only have a certain amount of time here, and it's not that long. I think it's only 30 minutes or something on this planet. You can't go running after him.
And Via's like, you shut up, you family.
You fucking whore. Yeah. She's like, you ruined my family. You fucking my dad, basically. We find out she knows that her dad's been fucking Rebecca. And so she tries to stomp off in a teenager way. And then, Rebecca shoots her gun in the air. It's no one is fucking leaving, And so Pia's now staying. And now Kadir is being chased by the monkeys and stuff, and he's fighting them off. And does he still have his he's got his axe, right? His laser axe still from the warrior planet. And so he's hitting them with that, and he can actually hit the spirits away, as they're about to try to get into him. He hits them away and they fly off. And so they're like, man, he's kind of hard to deal with or whatever. So they're still chasing him, and he's killing him as they come up, and he's trying to get Grant still. Yeah.
Oh, and so everybody stays up there except for Chandra. Chandra is like, you guys can stay up here. I'm going to go get Kadir, and he and I will leave if you guys aren't going to, we're not waiting for Grant. We're just, we're going.
If Grant's not here, fuck it, So she kind of walks in as well. But she's going down the stairs the correct way, not just jumping in. And so now Kadir and Grant are they catch up. Kadir catches up with Grant, and they run into this room as they're kind of still fighting each other.
This part.
They run into this room, and they see another pillar, another dimensional machine.
Yeah, they stop fighting and they're like, what?
Yeah, how is this pillar here? We have the only one. That doesn't make any sense. So that kind of alludes to there's some other time travel or something going on in all these different worlds.
Well, I thought it was because so there's one ape working on the pillar, and it looked because Grant and the ape have they have this eyed connection.
Oh, is that what it was?
And I thought it was Ape Grant, basically.
It could be. I
figured that was the dimension part.
I just thought it was someone left this here, and there's an ape working on it.
I don't think so. I think it's because they make that eye contact, and then the ape says something in whatever language, and it's they have a connection of some sort. I thought it was Ape Grant.
Okay, or Spore Grant.
Something like that, So, but then Kadir's well, screw this, I am leaving, and he pushes Grant and goes to run away, and as he does this, of course, he messes up that pillar.
Yeah, because he trips over the power cord for it.
Yeah.
And it tips over, falls on Grant.
Yep.
So Grant gets smashed by this pillar, and he's like, oh my God.
Crushes his spine. He's
I can't move. I'm basically not gonna go anywhere. You can't lift this thing, so like, you basically have to leave. You're gonna have to leave me and take care of my kids. You son of a bitch. You better like. He's like, and I know you will because you're gonna fucking make this promise to me right now. You have to take care of my kids and make sure they get home. And Kadir's like, sure, like,
okay,
like sure I will. And then as he's kind of leaving that room, Chandra comes in. He's like, oh my god, Kadir, and like while we find out though, while she was like running up the stairs trying to get to where they were and find Kadir, like one of the spore spirits was like looking and it found her. So like it just possessed her. So now she's like possessed by this spore and she's with Kadir and they run up, they get to the pillar and it's about to go off and they're like, where's my dad? Where's Grant? And he's like, he's not gonna make it.
He's not coming.
So,
and it was cool because as they were running, it showed another one of the spirits like following them, and like Chandra's character kind of stays back for seconds, like this host is already taken.
Yeah,
and so then it like speeds up and it looks like it's gonna try to get into Kadir, but then
they vanish.
Yeah, then they get to the machine just in the pillar just at that point, and then it's like, where's Dad? And he's not here, and then poof, it goes off.
Yeah, so now they disappeared, and Grant is left, and he's dying, and he's like, God damn it, like, I hope he like lives up to his promise that he told me he better, all I care about is my kids and whatnot. So that's where it leaves it. That's where like this issue leaves on a really big cliffhanger of, I guess Grant's dead, or they at least leave him and they can't come back to that place.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking, this is what I think is going to happen. He's going to get with that monkey. Now that you said that's probably him, they're going to repair the pillar. He's going to get healed. They're going to repair the pillar that's there, and he's going to follow them in the cracks because he knows you can follow through the cracks.
Yeah, probably.
So that's what I think is going to happen. But on that note, is there anything else you wanted to hit on this one?
Other than I just want to state again, the story, like there were some cool little twists. In general, it just kind of followed a format and you kind of could see where it was going. But cannot state enough how much I enjoyed the art on this one. It was really fun.
Yes.
All of the worlds felt different. All of the creatures were imaginative. All of the coloring, like you said, was very vibrant and cool. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, what would you give it, John?
I'm going to give it an 8. It was
8?
really solid. I want to continue this. I want to read
Cool.
more.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll read another one coming up. But yeah, I'm going to give this one a 7. I felt like the writing was strong. Like it was interesting. I wanted to know what was going on. There was definitely some, like you could tell what was going to happen just based on I've seen Sliders or I've seen other things. You're kind of like, okay, there's this dynamic of every I'm talking like the Meg. Any time there's like or Deep Blue Sea, there's always like a financier who's the evil guy, who's the money behind the project or whatever. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there's always like a love triangle going on, kind of thing. So like I kind of could tell what was going to happen, but it was still like different enough. And like you said, the art was so fucking amazing. Just I want to see what the next world looks like, kind of thing, just because it's so interesting. So
I want to know what like other worlds there are in this multiverse of
oh yeah,
cool imaginative thought.
Yeah, and so if it was just based on the writing, like if the art wasn't that good, I'd be like, it's a 6. It was fun. I like it. But because the art's so good, I'm giving it a 7. Like it just pushes it over the next level. So yeah, next time we are going to read Parker the Outfit. So that's
more Parker. All right.
That is the second Parker book of the IDW series that Darwin Cook did. So read along, so you can see our thoughts on it, compare them to yours, or get that shit spoiled by us. Either one. If you guys got any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, @gmail.com.
Don't forget to check out our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. We got some hardcover reviews on there. We've got an awesome statue review. We might have some more of those coming. We got some special plans coming up, too, for the spooky month of October. So check us out. Stay tuned.
Sounds good. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
On the next one.
Bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.